Moses was conflicted, not about what God wanted to do for the Hebrew children. I believe that they should be out of oppression. I just don't believe that I'm the one who should do it. Conflicted, but he kept listening. Conflicted, but he kept talking. And the more that he kept listening and the more that he kept talking, the more that God could give him to empower him to move into what God had called him to do. I wish I could say that better, but because he kept listening, he was able to come into agreement with God. You may not agree with God when it starts, but if you keep listening, when it's all said and done, you're going to agree when it's all said and done. I know you may not agree right now, but sometimes you got to trust what God sees over what you see. And in hindsight, you'll see that what God was calling you to, God had a provision to make sure that the weapon you thought was prospering was really just playing chicken with you. Because when it was all said and done, God made sure that it didn't damage you. God made sure that you could still be restored. God made sure that you still made it to the other side. You got to keep listening. I was praying about this reality that sometimes we don't agree with how things have played out in our lives. And in those moments, we get upset with God. And when we get upset with God, we miss out on something. God agrees with you that should have never happened. God agrees with you that death should have never been in the world. God agrees with you that level of pain, that level of trauma should have never been your experience. Sometimes we miss out on the reality that what we are currently living in is a fallen world. This was not God's plan. This was not God's desire. God didn't want you to go through that abuse. God didn't want you to go through that abandonment. God agrees with you that should not have been how your story ended. Where you and God disagree is that your story ended the moment that pain entered. God says, I can agree that you should have never went through that. I can agree that you deserved better. I can agree that someone should have done right with you. I can agree with you on that. Where you and I disagree is that your story is over the moment where pain entered the picture. God says, I disagree with that. As a matter of fact, I can make all things work together for your good if you just love me and allow me to call you in spite of your brokenness. Where you and God disagree is not about what happened. You and God disagree about what he can do with what you have left over. If anybody gets that revelation, you would stop wrestling with God about who left you and who hurt you and why you're still grieving. God says, I never wanted you to know death. I never wanted you to know abandonment. I never wanted you to know divorce. But now that you know it, I want to show you what my glory can do when it sits on top of your brokenness. I want to show you what my glory can do when it gets in the middle of that heartbreak. I come into agreement with you, God. That's a good word. That's a good word. And I want to break up against something that the enemy has been using. He's been using God's name in vain, trying to make you think that God did you wrong, trying to make you think God did you dirty, trying to make you think that God left you, trying to make you think that God forsook you. And I hear God saying that the enemy's using my name in vain. But if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face, they'll begin to understand that I didn't want that to happen to you either. Jesus. So hurt was God by the fact that you have experienced other people's sin and battled with your own sin, that he sent his only begotten son. He says, I want to show you I put skin in the game. God didn't even have to do it, but because sin entered the world, he says, I'm going to put some skin in the game myself, because I wish that never would have happened to you. But since you bleeding, I'm going to bleed too. Since you hurting, I'm going to hurt too. I'm going to make sure you understand that I know what it's like to be rejected. I know what it's like to be abused, but I also want to make sure you know that that death is not the end. I want to make sure you know that resurrecting power still exists for those who have been wounded and broken and damaged. I want to make sure you know something about that thing that tried to wipe you out, that you're getting ready to breathe again. You're getting ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. In about 3 seconds, somebody's gonna have air in their lungs. I dare you to take a deep breath. I dare you to take a deep breath. I dare you to send a sign to the enemy that I'm still free. I dare you. I dare you. Tried to kill me, but I'm still living. Tried to take me out, but I still got another shot. Tried to keep me oppressed, but who the Son has set free is free indeed. You tried to wipe me out, but God said not yet. Not yet. I didn't want you in it. I didn't want it to break you. I didn't want it to hurt you. What you're living was not my plan, but God says I can still interject my plan. If you would surrender your will, if you would lay down your grief, if you would lay down your vision, God says if you let me off the hook, I'll get you off the cross and you will live again.